Thank you everyone for joining us in this video. Today, I'm going to be interviewing Dr. Anand Narayanan, a NASA space biology postdoctoral fellow from the Florida State University. And my name is Gabriel Escalante. I'm part of the Syndica marketing team. And let's begin with the first question. First of all, welcome, Sunny. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
It's always a pleasure to have you, Sunny. The first question is going to be, what is your educational background and where did you go to school and what is your mascot? What is your specific mascot from the universities?
Thank you for those questions. I've had a very interdisciplinary career and have joined various academic institutions. I'm currently a postdoctoral fellow at Florida State University, focusing in the area of space and medical physiology. And the Florida State mascot are Seminoles, which are a local Native American tribe. For my doctoral degree, that was completed in Texas at Texas A&M University, also a medical college that was connected with a interdisciplinary space life science program supported by the National Space Biomedical Research Institute. So my training was in medical physiology and space physiology, though I also interacted and collaborated and worked very closely with individuals from engineering, nutrition sciences, radiation biology backgrounds, among others. And Texas A&M University mascot is a border collie named Reveille. Then there's also another mascot referred to as the 12th man, which is the spirit of community and close connection that Aggies have with the university. So in sports games and football, there are 11 players on the field. The 12th man refers to the fans and the entire Texas A&M community. So that's where that originates from. So I've had an interdisciplinary background. That continued even before my education here in Florida State University and at Texas A&M, beginning at West Virginia University, the mascot being Mountaineers, and my educational training from West Virginia University was in mechanical engineering and biology.
Wow, you definitely have a rich background in the sciences and, as you mentioned, interdisciplinary. Definitely, it's a lot of knowledge to absorb and really interesting for sure. This leads me to the next question, which is it's more what made you decide into getting this career path? Like, what was the moment you knew you wanted a career in the sciences, and what drew you to this field?
Sure. Well, I've always had a very strong affinity and connection with academics, hence why I'm still in academia. And really blessed and fortunate to be. I enjoy learning very much, and my interdisciplinary continued experiences and history, I think, is suggestive of that at least. That's what I've always been. Even as a kid, I was always very interested in many topics, many areas of study. I enjoyed experiencing and learning about all subjects, though I had an affinity to NASA, to the exploration of space, and in particular, humanity's exploration of space. That just fascinated me as a kid, and in turn also how our human space exploration efforts are an international effort, collaboration by U.S. leadership, but also partnership with Canada and European Space Agency and countries from Asia, South America, Africa, Australia, every continent really, to work together and discover, engineer, and invent to push progress towards increasing our knowledge in many areas. In turn, as a scientist, my inspiration as a scientist, being interested in various subjects, I had always a affinity towards noticing differences, and in turn, that shaped my educational training pathway too. I had a affinity towards engineering and sciences because I learned early on that's what generally individuals on NASA were. But also had an aptitude for sciences, technology, engineering, mathematics. So that supported my interests. Though in turn, I also had a before going too far along into my educational training as an undergraduate student, I'd always been thinking, does NASA, from my experiences and knowledge at the time, was primarily in building rockets and space stations and rovers that go to the moon or Mars or other places across the solar system. Medicine probably did not have much of a a tie with what NASA had ongoing. But then through educational programs and opportunities, I did learn of a connection, a bridge between medicine and space, and that's what led to my next steps to Texas A&M, and that's what led to my next steps here at Florida State, and bridging between different disciplines and combining them in, but I think in at least novel ways, perhaps others too.
Like I mentioned earlier, that's a lot of that's a really rich information on your past and how you ended up where you're at right now. Speaking of the ISS, I'm not sure if any of your research is involved with some applications of the ISS, but I recently found out that the ISS is going to be discontinued in 2024. I was not aware of that, and it was kind of a shock to see that kind of information online. I thought it was fake for a second. I wonder what NASA has in store for the future of the ISS or any other project that they're going to be having. Moving forward, you touch a little bit on this question, and I just want to expand a little bit more. You definitely have a lot of experience in your field. How did you get your job? Like, what jobs and experiences have led you to the position that you are right now?
Yes, thank you for that question. And in terms of my career progression, it was being very enthusiastic, being very open to learning, and also being interested in pursuing challenges. And a combination of those factors connected and supported my interests in the science STEM field in general, and encouraged me to constantly look out for opportunities, programs that I could participate in, develop, support, lead, and enrich my academic and career experiences. And in turn, being involved in those programs and communities and projects as a scientist, I think is also connects with my interests and motivations of being a scientist. One notices new interests and new programs and new opportunities and new ways to get involved and learn and lead and support programs. So that's how, in short, my what has been my approach and what has helped me be successful and lead towards the career path I've had. I've been really blessed to also have a lot of support from many, many, many individuals, from NASA, from academic institutions, from family, from friends, who are always encouraging to see how I could support our human space exploration projects. So, in being involved in those programs, I was also very curious. So, going back to my earlier comment, what had inspired myself to be interested in sciences was curiosity. And my undergraduate experiences were in these different disciplines intentfully to acquire a very broad scope of what sort of directions post undergraduate there were. Um, and then being actively involved, identify uh, areas that what were, from my perspective, a good fit and interest towards me. And that's what led me to discover the field of physiology. As an undergraduate student, I did not have specific training in physiology, maybe one or two classes, but not extensive to really know what the field is. And then ultimately learn that physiology is very much a engineering approach to thinking about biology. So it was very much a great bridge between my undergraduate interests. And similarly, at Texas A&M, though being focused as a doctoral student in one area, um, uh, being curious and enjoying working with in a team environment and learning, I learned about many additional opportunities and programs that supported my direction to continue in the field I am here at Florida State.
That's fantastic. Definitely for space related research, there's a lot of you need to have a lot of knowledge and skills to be able to apply them in space because I'm something of a space aficionado as well, and kind of know a little bit. Obviously, not as much as yourself. I'm not even close, to be honest. But I really do like learning a lot of space applications and research. Moving on, based on the research that you're doing for in space, Would you be able to expand a little bit more on what are the real world applications that are implied in your research?
Thank you very much for that question. That is one of my favorite questions to think about and respond to. And also, thank you for highlighting your passion for the space field. There's still many things I am unaware of with regards to a space program, and there's so much to learn. One thing I enjoy about the space community is there's a really rich history, and there's so much one can learn. There's so much identify ways to get involved, and that's on that note, that's somewhat related to my response to your question, where with regards to the field of space medicine and space life sciences, is a unique direction in the human space exploration projects that I think has more of a tangible application compared with any other space-related activity. Though I'm biased in saying that, being in the field, but let me explain why. In the context of space applications technologies, there's really a lot. You highlighted ISS, and there's rockets, there's rovers, but fundamentally, all of these technologies and engineering systems are for us to learn more about the universe, and also, in particular, support our progress into space, whether traveling to the moon, as we've done before, or spending time in space through habitats like the International Space Station, and learning about the environment, learning about how we respond to the environment, and in turn, address very unique and different challenges that we can't experience here on Earth. So in our journey in space, we learn really a lot about ourselves, both literally and figuratively. In terms of figuratively, discovering new technologies and project development and unique ways to study the universe, and everything as part of it, and then also learn about how we adapt to the space environment that one can't really simulate entirely here on Earth. So we discover how biology responds in a totally novel way. And the only way really to capture that is in space. In turn, space is an innovation platform just by having projects in space. So we learn about biology and medicine in a way that provides a different perspective that biomedical research here on Earth studies and discovers. Though we can use our knowledge and approaches and what we learn from space projects to learn more about biomedical questions here on Earth. For example, from my own experiences, we were working together on a space-related project and studying how certain organ systems were adapting to an environmental factor, microgravity, in space, and made a discovery of how the organs adapt to that unique spaceflight factor. Um, but then discovered that those concepts had not been thought about. Those questions, similar kinds of questions, had not been thought about in in medical conditions of those organs. So so myself and a team of scientists and engineers, we applied those concepts and led to innovative new hypotheses and research studies and conclusions that furthered the clinical research space in this one medical condition. So it provides a unique perspective that certainly has Earth applications.
Thank you so much, Sunny, for the insightful answer. It's really interesting getting to know more about your research. It's definitely, when there's space involved, there's something that I just love about it. And knowing how our body adapts in space and the issues that it can cause, it's fascinating and scary at the same time. Let's stick with your research a little bit more. What was the most challenging part of your research, and simultaneously, what was the most enjoyable part of your research?
Certainly, there are many challenges and many uh, elements of research that I enjoy. So this is a really tough question, but um, in terms of challenges, and for myself, the two are somewhat connected in a way. in terms of challenges, space projects are challenging in the context that they're very different from projects here on Earth, um, from many perspectives, from resources available, from what can be studied, the frequency, from the kind of hypotheses that can be really tested and investigated. So there's certainly challenges from that perspective in thinking about space research. So how I view it as a scientist. As an engineer, I really enjoy that. I enjoy thinking about the constraints. I enjoy thinking about how to problem solve and optimize and strategize to gain insightful and meaningful information from space related research. So I enjoy that very much. So that being said, space research is also very has a very different approach from biomedical research, and and some may not find that enjoyable or challenging enough, or it depends on the individual. For me, it's been a really great experience, and been really lucky to has been a really great fit for myself.
Thank you so much for the answer. I imagine there's a lot of logistics involved when involving space and studying, because I guess you got to arrange situations to send to space and then bring them back. It's really enjoyable, I gotta say. Which leads me to the next question. What is a defining moment in your research that you were like, wow, this is amazing? This is a great discovery or advancement?
Thank you for that question. So, a defining moment in my research experience to date is that recognizing research allows for failure, and how research hypotheses can, based off of the uh, experimental results, can match or go against the research hypotheses. Um, but then in turn, the data is the data, and uh, provides us new knowledge with regards to the area of study, and that's very much a topic I enjoy very much to think about it in the context of space research, as the environment is very very novel, and in turn provides a unique way to approach previous knowledge or our understanding of physiology in unique ways where that may not necessarily fit or with what previous studies have shown, because of the unique environment that space is. So, for example, as a doctoral student, there was a little bit of knowledge of an organ system, the digestive system, in the context of I had learned more about it in the context of medical conditions. But there hadn't been a lot of investigation in the context of space research, and that was curious to me, as there were some studies from a nutritional perspective in the context of the digestive system, but nothing very comprehensive. And in turn, when when thinking about this, researching this question more, and also being supported, I was in a environment at Texas A&M that provided the opportunity to really not only think and research about this question, but actually conduct experiments to collaboration, and being involved um, with various studies to really look closely at this question. And in turn, this led to an investigation and exploration of a new adaptation to spaceflight environment factor, microgravity, that hadn't been really explored before. So in turn, and that moment really shaped my direction as a doctoral student. It ultimately led to my dissertation project. So specifically, it was a very defining moment for my doctoral degree, but also it was really the opportunity and to think about a question that hadn't been really investigated before, and studying it and testing it and failing and really confirming. It was a unique finding, and it turned out to be. And it was really great experience in terms of how to think about research and how to think about experimental design, and how space really provides a unique perspective to think about biological adaptations.
Truly fascinating. Wow, it's research in space. It's so much fun, and I know there's a lot of research involved with going to Mars and how the body's affected. I know that for every day that you spend in space, your body has to adjust. It takes one day, one equal day, for them to adjust the same strength. I believe Chris Hadfield mentioned that a couple of years ago. He also did a great space oddity video on the ISS. I'm sure you're familiar with it. Truly fascinating. Would you say that you mentioned a lot of about your findings and your passion? Would you say that the one that you mentioned about the adaptability in space would be one of the most surprising scientific findings that you've encountered, or probably the most important?
Great question. So, in the context of most surprising, it was uh, contrary to what I was reading about in literature, and contrary to in the space literature, and it was important to me as was related to my own graduate work. Though in the context of NASA also found it an interesting question and inquiry study. I was really blessed to be supported by NASA to present at their biomedical research conferences and share the results. And part of that work actually also continued as part of my study as a postdoctoral fellow, being supported by NASA to closer investigate those findings in a different space-related context. And yes, much of our knowledge is most of our studies still have been specific to studies of space, of us being on the International Space Station, or but now it's great you mentioned Mars, where that has been a long-term a target, and we are actively thinking more about Mars, and in particular thinking about how factors on a mission to Mars are different than what crew such as Chris Hadfield and many others experience on the International Space Station, or what they may experience on the way to the moon. And the big one is radiation. The type of radiation that a crew to Mars may experience is very different. So that's another area of inquiry that uh, is important in terms of studying what those effects are, and how they may have an effect on crew health. In terms of achievements, I've been very blessed, and I've really enjoyed being so actively involved with NASA and our human space exploration efforts. Um, I've had a lot of personal and professional satisfaction already, and appreciative of the many opportunities I've had to support a human space exploration projects. I would, of course, very much enjoy continuing to support, lead, and increase our knowledge of biology in the context of space, and also how that may help us identify new ways to think about medical conditions here on Earth, and even treatments. Though my large motivation for academic interests are also to encourage and inspire next generation of STEAM scientists and engineers, and really all disciplines to become involved in space. There's really so much more to be discovered, and so many ways to get involved. And that for me would be really my greatest achievement in terms of a career, to have many more individuals to become involved and uh, answer the endless number of questions, and topics um, that we particularly know very little about in the context of, say, a mission to Mars or even going back to the moon.